First up, Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. US Treasury officials and top investors are talking about it. But does this mean real adoption, or is it just another narrative? My feed's been full with this.
I'll
What I
take this
love is
one.
that
I think that the Bitcoin.
so there's three camps, right? There's the people who are anti crypto altogether, and they're just like, this is totally ridiculous. The Peter Schiffs of the world. I should have a Schiff counter over here. Every time I mention him, Schiff goes up. They're just like, this is absolutely crazy, and just another sign that the administration, although overwhelmingly elected by the American public, is completely clueless. All right. Then you have the people who are Bitcoin maxis, and they're just thrilled that Bitcoin is going to be purchased by, or
Well,
that
it's not going to
the
be
government
purchased,
is sanctioning
right?
the idea of Bitcoin, and that and they see this as a step in the whole game theory thing that Bitcoin was always going to take over the world, and of course, um, America's going to be yet another casualty in the currency war. And then you have the people who are happy about the altcoins being mentioned, right? The altcoins, the Solanas, the Ethereums, the XRPs, the Cardano being mentioned in the same breath as Bitcoin, alongside with the strategic reserve.
It's beautiful.
And they're very happy about that. But the Bitcoin people, they think, oh my God,
What
the
are these?
altcoin is a Ponzi scheme scam. And how can you even taint the Bitcoin reserve by even mentioning anything like that? It's like having a mistress for your wife. They're like, that's for something, if you're going to do at all, it's in the red light district, quiet in a love hotel, and you never mention it. Right? You keep your second family somewhere else. And then the people who are completely against crypto and go, you're all terrible. You're all horrible.
That's
It's
right.
ridiculous.
And
But
then there's
what's
people who are happy with everything, right? Bullish all the way. Happy for Bitcoin, happy for the alts, happy for the
no.
industry.
If you hold altcoins that are going up faster and harder than Bitcoin, whatever happiness you have with Bitcoin, that's just the cost of being in the game.
Yeah, but I'm not happy
You're also
because
happy
the
about.
price goes up, number go up. I'm not a crypto zombie. I'm happy because of the adoption of the technology. That's what you talk about. You like the tech and how it can actually be useful and help the future.
Well, that's why I like that. That's why I like while the altcoins were mentioned, because of this idea that there are different technologies, different qualities to these different blockchains. And maybe I don't think they should be like in a strategic reserve. I sort of think that's like way in a totally different direction than what I need it to be. Um, it's like when platinum is used for your wedding ring. It's like, okay, I mean, I like platinum for a bunch of stuff. I never really thought about it as a wedding ring, but okay, fine if you like it for that, fine by me. So but the idea that we were for years worried about, hey, are we gonna what's going on with the crypto space? What are the regulations? Does anyone even care? Should we make money on it? How do we tax it? This whole thing. Now the conversation is really stirred up and going full force. So I'm really thrilled about that. But let's cut to today was the I forget what they call it, the White House Crypto Summit, where the CEOs and the Michael Saylors of the world went to go meet with, I don't know, Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, Donald Trump, who knows, in order to talk about,
David Sachs was in there?
of course, Czar David Sachs. I think he was there.
Yeah,
In fact, let's
bizarre.
just go ahead and cut to one of his videos over here where he explains a few hours ago what the White House meeting was all about.
Public and investors why you need a Bitcoin reserve at all.
Well, good to be here. I mean, the reason why we need a Bitcoin reserve is that the federal government already owns some. In fact, it obtained around 400,000 Bitcoin over the past decade through criminal and civil forfeitures and seizures. And so the government has to have a strategy for how it deals with this. In the past, the strategy has been simply to sell it, in an ad hoc way, almost willy-nilly. And that cost American taxpayers something like $17 billion in lost value. So we want to have a long-term strategy to maximize the value of these holdings. And we've decided that Bitcoin is scarce, it's valuable, and that it's strategic for the United States to hold on to this as a long-term reserve asset. So that's the.
My favorite thing about this is that means that the Bitcoin reserve, the government's entry into crypto, starts with crime.
Ain't that
It's
always?
crime
That's
and
the way the
fraud
world works.
and seizures and penalties that caused a Bitcoin to be a part of this whole thing, which I find to be pretty funny.
Well, the coming off of the gold standard, wasn't that a bit of a crime? Stealing people's gold?
Shh, shh. Okay. That allowed for the unlimited expansion of the U.S. economy that caused the production of the greatest empire the world has ever seen. If there was any problem at all with getting off the gold standard, is that they didn't do it before. Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Said
so
that
you're
for
pro
the AI
empire.
overlords, so we're good. All right. So next up, so he then mentions this is something I wanted to know. Like, why were the altcoins mentioned inside of the tweet from Donald Trump the other day? And he touches on here.
Just going into what's in the holding of the US government, going back to what President Trump mentioned over the weekend, talking of Ripple, Solana, other alternative coins, that people are wondering whether they're going to be included in this stockpile. Will they? Does the US own them? Why mention them by the president?
Well, the president just mentioned the top 5 cryptocurrencies by market cap. So I think people are just reading into this a little bit too much. He just mentioned the top 5. In terms of what we'll actually have, again, we have to do the accounting. We're not sure, sitting here today, whether the federal government owns any of these alternative cryptocurrencies. We know it owns Bitcoin. I believe it owns some Ethereum. I'm not sure about the other ones. This is why we have to do the accounting, is that, to be honest, no one's been able to give us a straight answer yet in terms of what the federal government owns. And this is part of the problem, is that we've never really had a digital asset strategy before. And this is why we've, missed out on accumulating a lot of value for the American people.
All right. So I love that because this means, actually, let me just turn this off for a second. This means that we're not anywhere close. We're not anywhere close to the government buying Bitcoin or any altcoins. We're not even close. They don't even know how much they have, where it is in the government, who owns it. And so all they're doing at the moment, I think we'll see later on, Scott Bessent talks about this. Scott, I call him Scott. It's Treasury Secretary Bessent. He talks about this like we're just stopping the selling at the moment. Like we're selling a bunch of this crypto, and Sacks just says $17 billion worth of value is lost because had they just held on to those 250,000 Bitcoins, they would have had tons of money right now, and who knows what they could have done with that money. All right, so stop selling that. So
Isn't that a
means that we're
clue
not
that they're going to want to buy if that's the case?
right. Exactly. So the idea here is that this is like step one in this entire process. And so the price had jumped up on Bitcoin the day the tweet went out. It jumped up, and I remember people were coming out of the woodwork messaging me, being like, "Oh my god, I got to get in! I want to go max long Bitcoin. This is going to be amazing. They're doing the White House Summit. It's going to go gangbusters. They're going to be buying money hand over fist. If just 1% of the government spending goes into Bitcoin, and blah 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 blah." So that's not happening, and we've seen this. We've seen this even in, let's say, other liquidity that gets added to the market. When the Fed cuts and raises rates, when there's repo operations, when there's quantitative easing or whatever, it's not today the spigots get turned on. Sometimes it's months to a year and a half, 2 years before we actually feel the full effects of it, right? We only saw inflation after, what is it, a year and a half, 2 years after the COVID crisis that caused an entire problem. And so this means set your alarm for months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, or maybe in Trump land, let's call it 6 months from now, before you're even seeing any conversation of the strategy for buying any Bitcoin.
Well, my thought when I first saw the tweet, and then when I thought about it, was I'll know this is serious when there is another piece of information. How much Bitcoin does Trump own? If I didn't hear that Trump bought a bunch of Bitcoin and now he's rich with crypto. I just heard that he did, this tweet and that we're going to make a strategic reserve asset. So I thought, if this isn't coupled with Donald Trump owning a ton of crypto, then I don't think anything major is happening just yet.
Well, this is what I don't understand. There's some of the conversation going around here. In fact, even in the interview with David Sacks, they asked him about the conflict of interest that the people who are managing this would have any crypto, pumping their own bags. And Sacks says, "Well, I sold all my crypto. I don't know what anyone else is doing, but We have there's an ethics committee within the government that tries to make sure that these things are supervised. And so, we don't know what the rule is, but that's what they're saying. But that sort of goes contrary to the idea of the strategic reserve. When there's a strategic reserve of oil, they don't go, okay, now you can't have oil. When there's a strategic reserve of gold, they don't go, okay, now you can't own gold. Strategic reserve of currencies, you can. So if this is a strategic reserve, it means that they think it's valuable to have it, and that it needs to be done in order for the national security or economic security of the nation. So then, in fact, if anything, I want them to own the asset so that they also benefit if it goes well. So I find that to be a little bit strange. That
You
this
think
is
there's
not like,
Go ahead.
well, this is not like insider trading any more than the Treasury having dollars in the Treasury General account means that you can't hold dollars.
Yeah, like if David Sack came in and said, I got rid of all my gold, I don't want there to be a conflict of interest, you'd be like, that's kind of strange that you're getting rid of gold.
Weird. So I don't get that. What is it that we think this thing is? So I think that's funny. But as far as later on in the interview, Sacks talks about the idea of the meme coin and Trump's meme coin and the Melania coin and all that. And I believe he states, hey, as long from his perspective, as long as the meme coin is declared as this is just for fun. This is just he calls it collector's item. This is just a collector's item. This is just for fun. It's not for profit. Then there shouldn't be any problem with it. You should be able to release as many meme coins as you want.
I agree. You agree with that?
Yeah. If Donald Trump wanted to make a Hummel figurine set out of his likeness, go ahead and do that. What do I care? Go ahead and make whatever you want. But if it's marketed as buy this meme coin as an investment and all that, I think that's problematic. And by declaring them securities in any way, you actually open up that idea. People go, well, this is security. I have to jump through all these KYC hoops and all these different regulations in order to buy it. That means it actually is an investment. It supports the idea of the person who puts it out, that this actually is an investment. No, let it be known that this is a crazy Wild West casino gambling thing, and have at it. Now, the last thing I want to say on it is that actually not the last thing I want to say. I'm talking about a whole sheet of bullet points here about this particular point. But just to bring up Cardano again, because just like Peter Schiff, I have to talk about Cardano every episode. And that's the reason why Charles Hoskinson wasn't invited to the White House crypto gathering thing is because the mention of ADA and XRP and Ethereum and all that was just like, is Donald Trump Googled CoinMarketCap and saw the first 5, and
so Cardano's in top 5.
Cardano's been in top 10 like forever now.
Yeah, but is it in the top 5? That's what Sacks says. Sacks says the president mentioned the top 5. I didn't know XRP and ADA were in the top 5, and also Solana.
Market cap, yeah, absolutely.
But it's a dead garbage zombie train.
Peter, that's not what the segment is about. Okay,
I'm trying to trigger you.
All right, so I'll move off to Scott Bessent. Now, this interview for Scott Bessent on CNBC, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, sorry, Scotty, just what I call him, I thought was one of the best interviews I've ever seen with the Treasury Secretary. In fact, it's sort of strange, like how honest he's been and open and knowledgeable about the subject. I'm used to so much more cagey information, even from the wonkiest officials. And so at the end of this, we're going to play this part, and at the end of it, he says something about crypto. Let me just pull it up. We're starting with Bitcoin, but it's an overall crypto reserve. And we're starting with the stop selling, and then we're going to think about acquiring.
I mean, that's a smart way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, they don't even have an accounting system for it. They don't even know how much they have. So I think this is great. And it makes it very clear that purchasing crypto by government entities makes a lot of sense. Now, because of this is happening, game theory steps in. And if you are a foreign nation and you're like, they're doing a strategic reserve for Bitcoin, what do you think other nations might decide to do? They might just be like, okay, well then let's start acquiring Bitcoin. If they eventually will do this, why do we want to wait around and wait for that to happen?
Talking to Brian Armstrong last night ahead of this summit today, and he's one of the members who's been advising the Trump transition team since the campaign trail, and he made the point that he thinks a lot of countries are going to follow. I know of already Middle Eastern countries, Gulf states that have been looking into a Bitcoin buying strategy. There's also reportedly conversations within the Chinese government to look to follow suit if the government in the U.S. makes this move to roll out a purchase plan.
But there is no purchase plan.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, if you have a strategic Bitcoin reserve, China used to be one of the epicenters for Bitcoin mining. It's very easy for them. They have all of this hydropower, and so they already have all the facilities, and they banned it a couple years ago, but it takes nothing to turn it back on. And then, I mean, similar to Iran evading sanctions by just mining Bitcoin, they already have it on hand.
Right, but if
All right, so the Bitcoin wars begin, right? There's countries all around the world that already have Bitcoin. So United States has 9 billion, UK has 5 billion, Ukraine has 4 billion, Bhutan has 1 billion, China has 17 billion. And if we're going to start now with the Bitcoin wars, well, the path to $1 million Bitcoin doesn't seem so crazy after all. It's not like Trump's not going to be president anymore and all of a sudden everyone's going to sell their Bitcoin.
Well, I mean, people are selling their Teslas. If it becomes ugly enough, people will get rid of things for virtue signaling. But okay, I like this strategy. If they hold this Bitcoin and they create an environment where Bitcoin goes up to $1 million plus per coin, isn't this a far less controversial, more welcoming way for him to deal with their budget?
Right.
Because
so that's the idea here.
if they're going to be cutting all the hair on fire, cutting USAID and yada, 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 and I got to cut this, I got to cut that, people are going to, babies are going to be starving. Okay, well, put your focus on crypto, acquire more crypto, the crypto you have. If it goes up, then your crypto's worth 200 billion, it's worth 500 billion, it's worth $1 trillion.
Yeah, so that's the idea here. So the strategic element of it, right? You can imagine that if it's why is there a stockpile of oil and steel or whatever from the government, and they call it a strategic reserve, is because if we go to war, we want to be able to have enough in order to prosecute this war. We need it for a rainy day, but we need it as a tool, as a item in our kit in order to attack or to defend. And so you can imagine that economically, if for some reason they put into policies something that causes a rise in Bitcoin, and now they have this surplus and they can sell some of that in order to finance certain things or to pay down the debt or deficit. Pay down the debt. Well, then that's strategic, right? And the causing Bitcoin to rise up, having policies to cause it to rise up, they do that in order to make oil go up. Like OPEC has policies to make oil go up in order to get more money for their nation, in order to pay for their things.
Right.
So why not have policies to make Bitcoin go up in order to do it? The difference with Bitcoin is that you and I can participate.
That's the wonderful thing about this.
It's this backdoor way of being like, hey, if we all do wait a second, if we all just buy this and then hold it, and then we're all doing it, it goes up, and then it could pay down our dollar debts, and we have Bitcoin as a thing. And fine, you might transition to a system where then, okay, I'll just hold Bitcoin will be my asset, and I'm just trying to get away from all my dollar-denominated debt and moving towards the system. It becomes this transitory phase where we can actually, looks like there might be a way out of the massive debt that the world has by having this other asset that depreciates in price.
Well, there are multiple ways out of the debt when you consider not only crypto, but the immense boost to productivity we're going to get with AI and robotics. Like, we are, from what I can tell, unless something stupid happens, we're definitely going to be dealing with this debt problem in a way that it will be unimaginable. I think essentially overnight, this debt issue will be completely wiped out because the progress that we're making, just what I've seen in the past 2 years, is incredible. If you combine crypto and AI and robotics together, because the AI agents need a digital currency in order to be more effective. They can't use they can't only use the traditional payment rails. Crypto is faster, more efficient, moves at the speed of light. Look up Michael Saylor, you'll find out how crypto is the second coming, Bitcoin specifically. Then we're going to be dealing, this debt will be like, we might in our lifetime not even be thinking about the debt anymore. There'll be just so much wealth available
That's right.
that the conversation will shift from the budget and dealing with the debt to what do we do
Surplus.
with all this money? What do we do with
That's
all
right.
this surplus, all this productivity? Where should we give our focus? I think, Trump, if you're listening, you need to be the crypto president. All right, I understand all the things you're doing about, DEI and whatever, foreign aid and all the stuff that you want, but crypto is the way to go, I think. Somebody get this, clip this, send this over to Trump, and let Peter be a part of saving the world. But what do you think? Is this pie in the sky? I've heard people talk about it, but I don't know if it's justified. Can crypto really erase the debt?
Yes, I mean it sort of has airs of $1 trillion coin, just print the $1 trillion coin and pay down the debt. But it's different because just because Bitcoin goes up to $1 million a coin, $10 million a coin, whatever it is, doesn't mean that the government can dump the entire amount on the market. Like
Right.
just like Trump coin, you'll destroy the liquidity of it. There'll be too much selling pressure, and they would never be able to get filled. So just because on the books it's worth whatever billion, $17 billion right now, doesn't mean they could just press a button and get 17 billion out of it.
That's
Right?
like when people say, "Oh, Elon Musk could solve world hunger or whatever if he just took $50 billion into this." You're like, no, he doesn't have $50 billion sitting in the bank. He starts selling Tesla. The value of these companies are going to start going down pretty quick. Something like
Exactly,
that.
but used as collateral, used in selling judiciously of selling Bitcoin judiciously in order to use the money for some certain things could be obscenely beneficial. But we'll see. We'll see what the flows are like. This sort of like starts off the gates, like the floodgates can start opening up, and like I said, you give yourself 2 years of this, and then some countries are going to start having these plans to actually buy Bitcoin, and then a bunch of the coins are going to be locked away. It's almost like burn in Bitcoin, and then you have this price appreciation. And so, as far as the trade is concerned, now it's really silly not to have any Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, 100%. I actually find it kind of crazy. I don't understand why the government doesn't just take $100 billion and buy Bitcoin. I mean, they waste, the amount of waste in the government is astronomical. Take 20 billion, 30 billion, 50 billion, just buy some Bitcoin. Like, why do they, what they have, did they say $17 billion worth of Bitcoin?
17, yeah, some $9 billion left right now, I think.
It's such a small amount. Why don't they just have a lot more? Just buy $50 billion more Bitcoin. Is that
Well, for people
possible?
like you and I, it makes sense, but then they don't even know where the Bitcoin is. So they're not even at the point where they can buy it. They're not sitting there
Well,
with a
get
ledger device, signing Bitcoin transactions.
yeah, I know, but get Michael Saylor or whoever, David Sacks, and
That's what they're
you have to
doing.
figure out. I just don't understand why they haven't already done it.
Peter, saw what the last administration was like. They had other concerns.
Is this part of why? Is this part of the? Is a symptom of the geriatric environment that the government is in, or all these old people? Like,
No, look, what I've wanted governments to start jumping in on Bitcoin was a 4,000. No, if that's the kind of government I had, we'd be like, what's going
no,
on
no,
here?
it doesn't have to be 4,000. I just mean, right now. Why did? What's the? What is the? Isn't 50 billion pocket change for the U.S. government?
No,
Well, I mean, they're sending out
billion.
billions of
No,
dollars.
pocket change is millions, not billions.
Tom, come on.
No,
You're telling me they can't put $20 billion into Bitcoin easy and it won't even affect anything?
what do you mean? Like someone's not going to be waiting around for that $20 billion?
Yeah, nobody in the government's going to be like, oh my God, we
No,
almost
no,
made our
they
budget, but we're
can't.
missing.
No, I'm saying that the problem is actually buying it.
Just, oh,
There's no system for it.
oh, I see. They can't just like go to Coinbase and buy
Exactly.
20
Can you
billion.
imagine they're sending it, to the wrong address? I just lost 10 billion.
So you think they
Why'd you
want.
just send a $1 billion test transaction? Why'd you have to send all 20 billion?
Somebody get Kid Boga on this. Look, do you think they would want to do it? It's just technically not possible?
Yeah, I think they will do it. They have to.
And I guess they wouldn't announce that they would do it until they can buy it because you don't want to make the price go up before you own it.
No, I
Okay.
don't think the government cares the price of Bitcoin.
What do you mean? If the government says we're going to go on an all-out spending spree, we're going to buy 50 billion, you don't think the price of Bitcoin is going to shoot up?
No.
What?
No, they'll buy hammers for $1,000. They don't care what price it is. They just want to have it. There's 21 million, and they want to have it.
I see.
Yeah.
One more thing I'm worried about with this crypto thing. Okay, do you think they'll be incentivized to acquire more Bitcoin from people? Do you think people who own a lot of
No.
Bitcoin will now become targets, especially if they're abroad?
No.
Like you take out some type of
No, they have the unlimited money printing press. They can just buy as much Bitcoin as they want. Other countries might do that, but who knows? The automated trading platform designed to take the friction out of executing your strategies. Whether you're trading stocks, futures, or crypto, TraderSpost connects seamlessly to your broker or exchange, giving you the flexibility to automate your trades without missing a beat. If you're tired of being the bottleneck in your own success, it's time to let automation do the heavy lifting. Head over to traderspost.io and see how easy it is to streamline your trading. TraderSpost, because your strategy deserves to run at full speed.